a lot of people will think that, this idea of a man is just simply that our idea of a man, or the Islamic, say, for example, idea of a man is just this violent creature. The truth is, like you said, violence is just an integral part, or the ability, the capacity to do it in situations where there's a need for it, is just one part of the puzzle. Like, for example, the Prophet Muhammad, one really interesting thing, we know he had 9 wives at one time, which is very difficult to make. You can probably...
bro, nine's a lot.
9 at one
Nine's
time.
a lot.
And they're consistent relationships. It's not like divorce and marriage. It's like you're actually living with these. So 9 at one time. And then that's one thing. And then he had 6 children, all of which died in his lifetime.
Wow.
Only one of them survived afterwards. So he had to live with the grief of that. His wife died at his time as well. He had to live with the grief of that. He loved his first wife, Khadija, who was older than him. She died. And so he had to live with that grief. He had to live with the grief of his uncles. And so he dealt with that. We've got narrations of him crying when his son died. But what did he do? He didn't just, cry and that's it, give up. He cried, and then he went to war the next day. He cried, then he went done a sermon the next day. He felt the grief, but then he had 19 wars that he participated in.
Wow.
And it wasn't just, these are not wars that he told other people to do where he sat in some air-conditioned place. He went and actually involved himself in these wars. He was fighting, he nearly died in one of those wars, so he was engaging in war. He was the leader of a polity. He had 9 wives at one time, all managing all that. He prayed half of the night. So imagine, like you said, you sleep 4 or 5 hours. The Prophet Muhammad may have prayed for that long, like actually praying for that long. And that's an incredibly difficult thing to do. His children died. He was directing the people. I mean, if you really think about it from a KPI perspective, key performance indicators, for 1,400 years, people have been following the teachings of this man. From the most grandiose of things to the most minuscule of things. I mean, this is influence. And even Pantheon, I think, is one of the organizations that have ranked it. They've put him as number 1 because how could you not? How could you deny? His influence stretches cross-culturally. It stretches historically, and then also we got the Quran. They've got the hadiths. We've got thousands of hadiths. We've got the Quran. This is the role model for the Muslims. You see what I mean? And it's a lot of men nowadays, I'll be honest, within the Muslim community and outside the Muslim community, we don't have those kinds of role models. The religious clergy are nothing like warriors, and the warriors are nothing like intellectuals or anything like that. And I cannot remember who said this quote, but it was such a powerful one. It was an English.
It was either Aristotle or Socrates, I think, if it's the quote you're about to say.
No, let me say the quote first. He said something to the effect of, if you separate the fighting man from the thinking man, you have fools that fight, and you have cowards that think.
Yeah, completely. And I think it was there's a similar quote by either Socrates or Aristotle. Yeah, he said something very similar. He said, if your warriors and your thinking men are separate, then you nailed it.
Oh,
it's
right.
exactly the same. I think it's one of those two. But no, and you're completely right. It's completely true. And that is what the world is lacking now as a whole. And it's kind of insane when you look at how the world works. You have these thinkers sitting around in some government building sending warriors to die. And the warriors don't understand why. And the thinkers are too scared to go do it themselves. And it's kind of strange how whole society's even, limping along as it is. But I agree with you. I think that's the essence of a complete man. And when you were telling me about the adversaries, the adversities that were faced and how he stood up and he fought against them and moved forward anyway. I think this is what God wants from us, from all of us. It doesn't matter what the adversary is. It doesn't matter how much you're hurt by it. You need to allow it to motivate you to push harder and show your power and show your resilience. And it's almost like even before I became Islamic, I very much understood that when bad things happen to me, this is a lesson from the universe or from God or from the Creator to stand up and show who I am and who I can be, and to take all of the pain and anguish and disappointment and heartbreak and all of this and turn it into a force I can use for good and to make myself a better person. And I think if you don't approach life this way, that you're always going to struggle, because life is hard for everybody. It's going to be hard. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. You need to be resilient to it. And I think that Islam is a fantastic way to understand exactly how to handle adversities and move forward. So.